Hello, everyone. First, I'd like to introduce what a digital transformation architect is. I think it's relevant to what's going on. Basically, it's someone who's always looking at the technology, how to use technology to resolve some specific problem facing a business or a city, and to produce some tangible results, some positive results. Like I see discussion here about, okay, we're using this technology, but what's the ROI? Are we getting some good value out of it? This is where architects like myself like to do their research and try to find some solution. This practice is not new. 30 years ago, I was a digital transformation architect in its simplest term, trying to convince companies to use computing at all. Okay, so the first adoption of computer in business. After that, I remember one day I went to the CEO of a company, I put a report on his table, say, look, I heard about the internet. Something new just came out. I think it's good for business, we can use it. And he said, he was doubtful at the beginning, but after that he became one of the biggest e-commerce companies in the United States. After that, working at telco companies globally, I discovered that they weren't really using all the data they had. You know, these networks, they generate so much data. We had DO here, GSMA. So you know how much data comes out of those networks, but they were sitting idle, barely using 10% of that. So I advocated more use of data warehouse and analytics. So now I'm confronted with some new technologies that came out. Blockchain mainly. So it attracted my attention and my curiosity. So I said, okay, what can we do with that thing, blockchain? Okay, sounds interesting. So I set to do some research, and I want to share with you whatever I discovered about it, and can we use it somehow to benefit us as a smart city or smart business? Okay, let's see. All right, so I try to explain it in plain English first, because it's a little bit technical issue. What its potential, but also the limitation, and how we can apply it in a smart city context. Right? So, to put it simply, blockchain is a ledger for tracking assets. A ledger is like a book. Okay, you can basically a book where you can write some information about who owns a certain asset. This asset could be tangible or intangible. For example, I can write that you own this house, you own this car, or you could own the intellectual property, the right to some music, to some video. And the thing is, you record it in immutable way, meaning once you write it in there, people can't mess up with it and change it. Okay, we'll see what the implication of that, but that's important. And it's also, what's revolutionary about it, it is decentralized system. So there is no admin. It's not like Facebook where all your data is sitting at Facebook, they control it, or sitting at different companies, they are controlling your data. It's a system where there is no central administrator. And that's a big deal. All right. So what changes with blockchain is the concept of trust. It is built, it has something called any transaction to make it into the ledger has to get enough consensus so that all the parties agree that this data is correct. Enough parties will have to agree that I own this property, and it will be written in there so that this record is to provide trust. For what is something today we have that we cannot trust? Like somebody coming with saying, okay, I have a PhD from this university, whatever. So as a company, I'm doubtful about that. With blockchain, I could be able to authenticate this. I don't have to go back to the university, the registrar, get it stamped here, get it stamped there. So the process of proving things with blockchain becomes much easier. Then we have to think, oh, how can I use that? Yes, definitely there are ways to use that to cut down on a lot of the red tape, improve some processes. And there is a full immutable audit trail. So we know this asset, how it went from one person to the other. And this is also valuable in a lot of things like auditing. You know, how much companies spend on auditing their books and stuff like that. Because the auditor has to examine multiple books of multiple companies. When they all agree to write in the same ledger, you could actually remove a lot of things. And it's encrypted, tamper-proof. So if anybody ever tries to change any information, it will be obvious, so it's impossible to tamper with. So that's basically what blockchain from a technology perspective is. Now, what's the impact on the economy? I mean, the main thing is that it's capable of eliminating intermediaries. How much of the economy is based on intermediaries and intermediary fees? It's a substantial part of the GDP is spent paying for people who don't add value. They are just there sitting in the middle. So we can recover that value by using blockchain. You were using cryptology, which is mathematics, and code, which is what they call them smart contracts, to replace these intermediaries as the keepers of trust. However, there is a lot of hype around it. Because like any new technology, I don't know if you remember prior to 2000, when the internet first came, there was so much hype about it's going to change everything. Suddenly the world is going to be an even playing field. All the companies, small and big, will compete equally, right? There was all these daydreaming about what the technology could do, which led to the rise in the price of stocks of a lot of internet companies. Then there was this big deflation in 2000. Well, we are approximately in the same phase with blockchain now. So, as an architect, from going to the technical side, I examine this technology and I find it has a lot of weaknesses. For example, the block size of is about 1 megabyte, which is very little, very little. How many transactions per second it can do is also very small related to other systems. So it said, for example, I was reading today, blockchain has about $700 million of transactions stuck, frozen, because nobody's processing them. Okay, so the system is not really smooth. It has some issues with it. And I'm, as a big data architect, to me, when you say a megabyte, I want to store terabytes, and I cannot. So this is not a solution for every data problem, blockchain. It's a very specific solution. Okay, and as a business, I want to see, okay, I can do asset trading with it. What else can I do? I was struggling to find more than that, but I think that's revolutionary enough. If we can at least, all the financial transaction could be moved to blockchain, that's already substantial. And the overall immaturity of the ecosystem. Really, the technology today is a mess. There is no standard, there is still conflict, and if there are not enough developers, if we want to use it, we cannot find the resources. If we use certain technology, it's going to change after a while. So it is early stages. Okay. Now, if you heard of blockchain, you heard of cryptocurrencies too. Why are they? What's the connection between the two? Why a currency, a cryptocurrency, and the storage technology go together? Because today on the internet, when you want to access the internet, you want to access a service like Facebook, they don't charge you. Why? Because they're taking your data and monetizing it and selling it to advertisers. So somehow they are managing to monetize without you paying. But with the blockchain network, the users have to pay. That's the idea. Since nobody owns it, there is no administrator, then whoever uses has to pay. So every network has its own currency that you need to buy it, then you use that currency to to use the network. So what came out of it is a lot of these what we call coins. Every network technology, when it's launched, comes with its own coin. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple. Ripple is used a lot between banks. And the other thing that emerged with these currencies is the crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a very, how do you say, progressive concept for small businesses to raise funds from multiple small investors, bypassing all the bottlenecks of the banking. So it's a very good concept, but it has been abused recently through what we call ICOs, initial coin offering. According to some people who, in the industry, 90% of ICOs are scams. So basically people trying to rip you off. Some regulation is needed here, and it's coming. Other issues with it are, I bought some cryptocurrency, and I've got some key, which is a very long, you will see it on the next, I think it's coming on some next page, I don't know. Yeah, you see this. So basically, I do have, this is my wallet, and you see these long numbers. I marked them a little bit, but this is not my private key. That's my public address, so it's okay. Still, I tried to hide it. But if I own $1 million in this currency, and I crash into some accident, how are my children going to figure out how to get it? I myself forget sometimes how to access my own crypto wallet. So there are a lot of issues around it. Yeah, I mean, you need to make sure you put the 24 words in the safe and that they know how to access. Exactly. So you've got to make some specific measures to make sure your money just doesn't dissipate. Okay. You have my exact same numbers. You remember yours? Good. Anyway, this is how it looks like. If you see the blockchain is the start what we call the Web 3, which is the next evolution of the web. So you see even the browser, you can use your Chrome browser, but you see this little fox at the top, MetaMask. I mean, that brings you, it's a doorway into another dimension of the internet, where blockchain lives, the decentralized application world. It's a different world, okay? It's like a science fiction thing where there's a hidden dimension and you enter it, okay? So it's very exciting, but again, a lot of people don't know about it in detail, so it is not ready for prime time. It's not ready for mass adoption yet. It's the domain of some people who are very technically averse. So it is designed in theory to be secure, but just this week, I heard about one, he wasn't even a hacker. He was some guy playing around. He managed to freeze or destroy $300 million worth of money, real money destroyed. And they called him here noob, I don't know, but nobody dude, okay? And this could lead to some, imagine that we are using blockchain in Dubai to put the deeds for all your apartments in the nice tower, and somebody pushes the wrong button, and suddenly you cannot prove you are the owner of that apartment. That would be bad, right? So I mean, it's interesting, but we've got to be cautious. Okay. Well, I always like to give the bad news first, so we are on the safe side, but the good news is that it is going to move forward. Despite all of these challenges, there are enough funds, enough interest in it, and enough smart people who will make it eventually work, like the internet eventually worked for all of us. In Europe, there are several countries have adopted blockchain. There are some countries, Japan, Korea, have very favorable legislation around it. And the savings could be, just for the UAE, billions of dollars every year. I don't have the exact number, could be saved in bank fees, and this money could be actually not wasted just by using a cashless society. And I think the UAE already set for itself a specific date to become cashless. Is it 2025? I think 2020 was for adoption of blockchain, but there is another 2020 something else to go completely cashless. Right. So that I think a cashless society allows some more easier financial transaction. You could be like paying those parking meters. Right now it's a little bit like when I park and I have to send the SMS, etc. So eventually a smarter city is I just park, there will be an application that will guide me to the parking spot, I just leave the car. So it's a more streamlined society. Now, the other thing, not just cashless, but paperless. I think there is another target to become paperless. I mean, there is a benefit. The benefit is not just for the environment. Okay, we will be saving thousands of trees, which is very good. We'll feel very happy. We saved the trees. But I think the value is from the process improvement. We just discussed how much money is wasted sitting in a car between Sharjah and Dubai. Also, a lot of money is wasted trying to follow up on some, on some transaction with the government. Also, the number of people involved. If you could, it's feasible to actually reduce by a lot the number of employees sitting there and doing little value. And what I love about it, who heard of the DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization? That was one of the early projects in blockchain, actually, and it got hacked and they stopped it. But the concept is our private organization, the private companies who have all these pyramid structures with a lot of middle management, we could flatten them. We can remove a lot of the middle managers and have all the employees working in a democratic way, voting about, making decisions by voting through these smart organization and adopting which project should go forward, which could get funded, etc. So this is, again, it could completely disrupt the way businesses are organized. Now, as an architect, I like to focus on things that are tangible and that are achievable in the short term, because it's good to have all these pie in the sky kind of targets. But what can we do, which is, today, let's use technology to address an issue. Okay, so you're smiling, good. VAT, it's coming in January. And to me, it's an interesting problem. Why? Because today, all these financial transactions going on in the UAE are anonymous. People exchange goods for cash and nobody records anything. Suddenly, there is big change in culture and there is massive amount of transactions that need to be captured, okay? So that's a challenge. And that needs an efficient audit process. So I need to charge 5%. How do you figure out who's complying, who's not complying? It's like finding needles in the haystack. That's another challenge for the blockchain could really be part of the solution. If, like we said, it can create immutable records of whatever is happening, then compliance, management, we could envision ways to make it happen better. This is the problem I am personally very interested in, I'm focused on. Hopefully, something will come out of that. Okay, that's in summary what I have found out about blockchain and what I'm planning to do with it. And I'd like to open it for questions. Anybody who has a doubt what blockchain is, please raise your hand. Please.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering, how would you use blockchain as an architect? Because you're an architect, no?
Yes.
So would it mean like, just thinking out loud, so that means like from the moment that you design a house, it goes into the blockchain, it goes to the construction company, who then start
Oh, sorry. I'm a digital transformation architect. I'm not a house architect. My apologies. Okay. What I do, I mean, even with technology, you've got people who are doing development of, but there are also the architects, like the house architect, who creates the blueprint and who has the big picture in mind of what this tower should look like. And then those blueprints are passed to people to execute. So as an architect, you're always looking at things, you know, what are, for example, what are the green technologies I can incorporate in my house to make it efficient? As a data technology architect, I look at what are the latest technologies that could be beneficial to this software creation. Uh,
So that means that you could follow the whole process from the beginning till the end. Suppose that someone is implementing your ideas the wrong way, that means that this person is not going to get paid. Or do I see?
No, what I'm saying here is that blockchain has some characteristic, this immutability, traceability, that I can use this characteristic in the design of the overall solution so that it will become more efficient than an alternative solution that is not using blockchain. It is possible to create solution for this exact same problem without using blockchain. Okay, would it be as efficient? You know, it's the same question as, can I build a house with solar panels or without solar panels? With solar panels, it would be more energy efficient. This is actually a very good question. There is a perception that the cryptocurrencies are anonymous. Actually, they're not. They are pseudonymous. Like when I buy some currency, I have a pseudonym, which is this long number. Okay, so I am very well known, but I'm not known by my name and address. However, in the system, there are ways, now the government are very good at finding out who is the name behind this pseudonym. Why? Because at one point in time, you have to go to some exchanges, trade this for cash, and then there they have put some know your customer regulation, so the person is known. So once they figure out in one way or the other who you are, actually blockchain is more transparent than cash or bank accounts or anything else. You cannot hide your traces in blockchain. So if you're thinking money laundering, stuff like that, actually it could be a cure to it. As long as the government do their job and figure out what's the name behind that long number. No, actually, there is a story that happened. One hacker stole millions of dollars of Bitcoin, and he was afraid. He was afraid to use them because he knew the moment he tried to convert any to cash, he will be caught. So what he did is he went to his girlfriend's parent house and stole their laptop and tried to sell it to buy himself an airline ticket. Although he had millions of dollars of Bitcoin, he couldn't use it to buy the airplane ticket with because he would be traced. So he was caught on the charge of laptop theft. And then they figured out that he had all the millions of dollars. So it's not easy really to transform Bitcoin to cash. He could have if he found an airplane that took it, but then they would know when he goes to the airport, you know, they would check his passport, they will associate that address with the name. That's why you cannot rename anonymous too long with this system. The others, this is volatility. This is what makes it unsuitable for use in trade. I mean, some currencies, they double in price within 1 week. So if I'm using this as a merchant, you know, I sold you something with this crypto and the value falls in half, you know, I lost money on the trade, right? If I sold you, I don't know, a washing machine for so much, I could lose. So it's not, volatility is no good. And because it is decentralized, there is a lot of manipulation of the price by some people who are unknown. The majority of people who are miners of these cryptocurrencies are unknown. Okay, but this is why what's going to happen is central banks are coming out with their own version of cryptocurrencies, which should be more regulated and less volatile. And I think in the long term, this is what will prevail. Of course. Yeah, actually, it's a cultural, there is a whole cultural movement behind these cryptocurrencies. It's people who, it's, you know, like the hippies movements in the 70s or something, and everybody riding Volkswagens. Now, a lot of people they want to be relieved of the government control. They feel it's too much on them. They want to go back to freedom. This is, you know, this idea, that's very nice ideas, and they think that through cryptocurrencies, because there is no central government, they can go back to this ideal lifestyle. However, there is some, I mean, it's not as easy as it sounds. You know, there are hurdles and it could be manipulated, but we have to listen to this generation who is telling us something by adopting this kind of thinking and cryptocurrency. Actually, the solution right now is very simple. These power, how would I say, consuming so much power for running the network is just something specific to Bitcoin. But there are, and this is why I call it data, the mining process, because you have to really exert a lot of effort and energy to mine the money. But there come a simple switch in protocol could lead to not using any electricity. So it's not that we don't need to go to Iceland and sit next to a volcano and use hydro, what they call that type of energy coming, the cheap energy to use Bitcoin. It's simply changing the technology to some alternative which is environment friendly. And this is happening, and the new term being coined now is crypto farming instead of crypto mining. Farming is easier. It's all at the surface. You just cut it and use it. So again, this is back to the issue of immaturity. The system today is not mature enough. It's not sustainable. It's going to change a lot. These are the early days. There are many early adopters, but it is a promising technology. We have to keep. And the UAE, by adopting it at this early stage, has shown some vision, you know, that it is, you know, they've got the vision right. But they have to be a little bit patient, and we have to invest. There are several investments that need to be made in order to harness it. Yeah, I mean, this is the part of the why people are so crazy, if I may say, about cryptocurrency is the stories of someone who invested $100 5 years ago. Now it's worth $100 million, something like that. Some kind of returns on investment that are astronomical, and they want to recreate that for themselves. It's this, like, it's similar to this gambling psychology. So we have to be careful again not to be taken by these kind of how they say, hype caused by, oh, I'd like to make, I wish I am the one who made these millions of dollars the easy way. It happened once, a few people got lucky, but today it's completely a hyped up game.
One question to follow up on that one. That means as well as this is not backed by any government can decide not to use cryptocurrencies, and then there's no value of the currency anymore. Like in China, they decided that Bitcoin can only use their anymore, no? So that means like any government can decide, and then the value of the cryptocurrency is nothing, no?
No, this is a peer-to-peer currency. So the government does manage to put sticks in the wheels of the cryptocurrency, but they can't stop it because they have no control over where the mining is happening at the global level. So no single government can stop the mining.
So the Chinese can still buy it and trade it outside China. Okay, but anybody in China cannot buy it. It's like basically tramadol. It's acceptable. It's like prescription. It's banned in Jordan. You can't use it in China, but other Chinese can. Without the government, now we can have it outside China.
Well, personally, I don't think it is viable in the long term. It has to, some regulation has to be there to reduce the volatility so it becomes usable in commerce. Today, it is excellent for speculation, but it's very bad for commerce. If you happen to be on the wrong side of the curve, you may end up losing a lot of money. Yeah, fiat currency, because of the controls, varies within a certain margin, 5–10% up or down, except like Zimbabwe, there was this hyperinflation going on. But these are exceptions, okay?
That's the main point exactly. Basically, when you have global cryptocurrency, even a civil war will not affect you.
Yes. The
The
other example is Argentina. Venezuela. Venezuela, they had the hyperinflation, and now the whole country could go bankrupt. So a lot of the citizens had invested in Bitcoin, and that shielded them from the bankruptcy of the country. So it does have benefits, definitely. But the way I view it as an economist, myself, I'm an economist and an IT person, both of them. So if I may wear my economist hat, I see that it is a how do I say? There are many question marks around it. It needs to be regulated while keeping in mind the ambition of the people who are expressing their desire to have some currency outside the control of a single government. How can we reconcile these two things? I mean, there are probably ways we can talk about that. Any more questions? I think I'm lunchtime arrived, right? So it's great, it's showing. Huh? Okay, thank you very much. And if you have any question, I'm a small business. I used to work for large companies. The last company I worked for was Huawei for 5 years. Spent some years in China here and there. But now I'm on my own with a startup, and I'm available for questions. Right. And my contacts are there, and my business card I can hand to you after this. Thank you.